Hi, everyone. Uh, I'm not gonna encourage you to have unprotected sex today. If you want to be an entrepreneur or want to start a business. Uh, but I am going to talk about certain expectations and certain things that I thought were true but turned out to be very different. Because I think that that should be beneficial for you and for your colleagues maybe when we talk about how we view ourselves, our futures, and the people that we work with, or maybe the people that work for us. Uh, I am, as I was already introduced, a person who's really focused on productivity, focused about personal improvement, focused about doing stuff that I really have to do instead of just doing things that uh, somebody else tells me that I have to do, and spending my time in the way that makes me the happiest, uh, not wasting time, basically. And when I decided to start a business and when I decided to do something other than work for somebody else, uh, I had this expectation and I had this very, very strong belief in my mind that, well, kids stop careers. And maybe that was because my parents, and I think your parents also, tell you, be careful because if you have a kid, that's it, no more future, no more anything. And when they told me that, I was in school, so maybe they were right. Maybe that would have affected me, but this belief transferred into my late 20s and early 30s, and I was still I was still thinking like that when I was a very mature person, and I had a family, I had a wife, and I had started a business, I had some money saved up, so there was no logical explanation why I shouldn't want to have a kid. But there was this fear in my mind that I would become very, very less productive, and I would have this huge responsibility, so I have to postpone it until I have everything else figured out, and then when everything is sorted, then I can have a kid. Uh, but later, when I man, I summoned the strength, and this little buddy came into our lives, here practicing his haka dance. Uh, I was completely shocked by what I learned, by what I learned from what parenthood and what having a child can teach you about productivity. So, as I said, I'm not advocating you going out and having kids, maybe, but this really changed my view about people who have kids and people who start businesses and have kids, or people who work in my company, for example, and have kids. Before that, I was really skeptical about mothers, about women who start their careers, who get married. I usually thought about them, oh, Jesus Christ, now she's going to have a kid, she's gone. But now I see that having a kid can help you not only become more productive overall, but teach you three very, very important things that make up, actually, that are very, very important for every business owner, manager, entrepreneur, and so on and so forth. These three things are emotional intelligence, constant learning, and focus, which I'm going to talk about in my presentation. By the way, this is the same kid. That's my kid, yeah. So first of all, emotional intelligence. This is a very important thing. We talk about it a lot in universities and in conferences and so on and so forth. We have to be empathetic. We have to learn how to deal with people. We have to learn how to put ourselves in their shoes. We have to know how to communicate with different types of people and so on and so forth. But very, very few of us actually act upon it and learn how to do that and practice it in real life until you have a kid. Kids are basically little assholes, little terrorists that live inside your house, and they don't have any sense of logic or reason or discussion or civilized manner of, I give you this, then you give me that, you do this in order to do that, or so on and so forth. Kids are terrorists that are ready to blow shit up the minute that you don't meet their demands. So if you want to deal with that terrorist, you are forced to become very, very aware of every single action that you're doing. You have to learn negotiation, you have to learn how to avert attention, you have to give positive feedback when you have to. And basically I started learning that, or my wife started teaching me that. And when I did that, when I saw what kind of effect I can have on this little person when I just do some little, kung fu emotional and avert him to do something that I want him to do, I understood that these are the same principles that I can very, very easily adapt in my business life. When I talk to employees, when I talk to clients, when I negotiate, maybe not that primitive as with a child, but very, very similar. So having a kid actually forced me to do that, because in order to not raise a serial killer, I have to, think now and act now. There's no tomorrow. I can't say that, oh, just screw him, let him do what he wants for a week, because after that week, that's it. He's going to do what he wants. I'm not going to be able to change him back, or at least without the help of a psychiatrist or something like that. So this forced me to become a bit more aware of what I do, and how I negotiate with people, how I talk to people, and made me much, much more attentive and progressive in my business environment, in my professional environment. Another thing is constant learning. Well, this is something that kids have to do, and this is something that I learned from talking to other parents and from my own experience. We all talk that a good manager and good entrepreneur, a good business owner or businessman or businesswoman has to learn constantly, has to have this inquisitive mind to question everything, question the expectations, expect the unexpected, and so on and so forth. Well, kids basically are, again, a living, walking example of a hugely inquisitive mind. They question everything because they don't know stuff. They question why things are happening to an absurd level when you only can answer them that, well, things are because things that are not can't not be. Come on. And by doing this, by pushing you to the limit when you have to tell them why, they make you stretch your brain, they make you think about things that you haven't thought about for 20 years maybe, and question what is happening around you. This is very, very similar to the 5 whys principle of lean methodology, which I think a lot of you is at least a little bit familiar with, which is basically the same thing, just 5 times. Ask why. Why is this process happening? Why is this process happening that way? Why is this, and why, and why, and why? And then you come to certain unalienable truths where you have to, where you can see why the process is going on, what are the problems, and how you can solve those problems. Another very good example of thinking like a toddler is Elon Musk, who is very vocal about his first principles approach, where you break down everything that you know and into very, very certain things that cannot be questioned, and then go up from there. This is the same thing that the kid does every time. He asks, why does the lamp shine? And then you tell him until you come to a conclusion about, theory of relativity. Basically what kids do is make you think about outside of the box because they don't have any fucking idea what the box is. And the last thing that, and maybe the most important one that I learned, is focus. When we are doing something, when we work in higher positions, especially when we have to manage people, when we have to manage processes, we, probably most of us who don't think of themselves as lazy, tend to go into this long rabbit hole of micromanagement. Tend to go into this long rabbit hole of, I will do this, just step back, I can do this better. This was my, probably, and still is one of my biggest weaknesses. I don't know how to delegate stuff. I don't know how to find people who can do the same things that I do, maybe equally or at least a little bit worse, or maybe sometimes even better than me, and delegate that stuff to them. I used to just micromanage and do everything myself, or at least view how those people do everything and try to direct them when I had to. I read about Reed Hastings, I think that's his name, the founder of Netflix, who was very similar to that and had a mental breakdown one day when his company came into trouble, and he had to fix the problems. He thought that he had to fix the problems by just doing more work, by working harder, by working more. He worked 18 hours, then 20 hours, then 24 hours a day. And finally, he had a total and complete breakdown. And after that, he just came to a realization that this can't continue. He has to start delegating, forming a team that can do stuff better than him, or that can do stuff at least as good as him, and delegate those responsibilities to them. A very similar realization came to me when I spent a week not seeing my child, basically. I wasn't on a business trip, I wasn't on a vacation or anything. I just went to work when he was sleeping, came back home when he was asleep already. After that week, when the weekend came, I saw him, and I mean, come on, amazing. But what I saw was a completely different person. That week in his life was like, I don't know, at that time, like 1% of his life. And he changed completely. He walked better, he talked better, he knew some tricks, and so on and so forth. And that was this cats in the cradle moment for me when I realized that during that week at work, I didn't do anything. I mean, I put out some fires, I talked to some customers, I talked to some clients, I talked to my employees, but basically the result of what I did would have happened if I hadn't been there. And I had employees, I had people who were totally capable of doing the stuff that I was doing. And if I was on vacation, or if I had been sick or something, they would have completely done everything themselves. And this made me question this, possibility of not spending of spending time with my child versus going to work and just doing meaningless stuff that anybody else can do. Made me question: is it really worth doing? Is it really worth spending time in the office instead of spending time with my kid? Or if I go to the office, should I be doing the stuff that I am doing, or should I be doing something much, much more important? Because if I'm sacrificing time with my family, maybe I should be doing something that is really worth it. And by questioning that, I came to a very, very clear realization of what I should be doing in my company that would be worth the time that I rob from my family, and what should be delegated to people that can do it just as good or even better than me. So to sum up, having a kid yourself, or talking to person or working with a person who has a kid doesn't mean that you or that person is less productive. What that means is that you or that person has the best constraint that can unleash your inner creativity, your inner potential, your inner productivity, which you have to have. And that constraint is very, very pleasant, doesn't give you a lot of reasons to be angry. And while you become more productive and while you become more and more focused and emotionally intelligent, that constraint is at home waiting for you to come back and being your number one fan, at least until they're a teenager, that is. So thank you very much. I hope I inspired you to question some parental figures in your life, and have a nice remainder of the conference.